All right.
We finally get some credibility on the show here with Greg.
Well, he's got to have an opinion. It's that day, Greg Auman. What Fox Sports, welcome in, covers the NFC South, but you have to have an opinion on Pete Rose, because if you don't, you can't live in America. So let's go. Where are we at
Pete Rose?
Where are we in on Pete Rose? I say still got to be out.
I say bring him in.
Tim says break the tie.
I'm more sympathetic, man. I'm glad he's in. I hate that he's in after he's gone.
Yes. Well, he's not in yet. He's not in yet.
Right. Allowed to be considered.
Yes.
Right.
But yeah, I'm from Philadelphia originally. The 80 Phils were like the first team I really loved. So big Pete fan there. Obviously, I don't like what he did, Kim, on baseball, but I don't know that it needs to be the end all permanent punishment, if you will, that it's been. Yeah. Great ball player. I think there's lots of questionable off-field things, and I totally appreciate the sanctity of the game and not wanting to let gambling creep into things. And this is a good deterrent for that. But no, I'm happy to see it for Pete as a ball player.
Yeah, we've been talking about this issue forever, and he was my favorite player. I did everything like Pete Rose, and I still say, you impugned the game. You knew it. You knew what you were doing. You did it with impunity, and you kept doing it, and you were never remorseful. And all this stuff is in the Hall of Fame. So this is like 51-49 for me. I could go either way on it, but it will always be a great one. I will say this: it's completely cowardly to wait till the guy dies to do it. That is just
that's how they get the last word, though. That's how baseball gets the last word.
Right. That's just such a bad look on so many levels. So anyway, welcome to the show, Greg. We just throw you right in the fire. We appreciate it. Yeah. So you got to chat with the defensive assistants yesterday. They've moved some things around, some guys around. What are your thoughts on where this defense is going? It seems like there's change in the air schematically and from a coaching standpoint. What do you think?
Yeah, it was neat to talk to them. It was neat that there was definitely a common thread was trying to improve communication, trying to get everybody on the same page. Safeties and cornerbacks working together, meeting together more than they have in the past. So again, I mean, we've heard for years about miscommunication and being in the wrong place. And this is an eye toward that. I mean, they've had essentially the same defensive staff for a long time here. The back end has certainly been the same with Kevin Ross and Nick Rapone. So now you see two additions this year where Charlie Strong comes into the defensive line. Mike Caldwell, who had been there with them both in Arizona and in Tampa, coming back in as the linebackers coach. That lets the other nice thing is that lets Larry Foote go outside and be they've moved things around, but it's still the same people. George Edwards, who had been the outside linebackers coach, is now kind of in a positionless, they call him passing game coordinator, but I think he's going to have some freedom to move around and kind of be a liaison between the different positions, if you will. I think all of this and adding an extra body on defense will also allow Todd Bowles to help a young and new coordinator on offense in Josh Grizzard. So I think it's just a lot of reshuffling, but it's something where I think it sounds like they feel better about the communication and feel like that will help them get the players to do what they want on the field a little more often.
You bring an interesting point up there, Greg, with Todd Bowles in the offense. Now, obviously, we know we're on our third new offensive coordinator, first-time offensive coordinator in a row here in 3 years. How involved was he with the Canales offense, with the Cohen offense, and ushering these guys into that role? And then how involved do you think he's going to be with Grizzard?
I mean, to start off with, Todd's done a really good job with these hires. Obviously, for you to pick two guys that we probably didn't know that well before they were hired, and then to elevate them into first-time coordinator, not necessarily first-time play calling NFL coordinators, if you will, and to have both of them be head coaches now. I guess it looks like by Jordan Schultz, I think they play each other in the season opener, which is kind of cool. The Bowles Bowl, if you will, with Canales and
that's funny, and
Cohen going head-to-head with Carolina and Jacksonville. But anyway, I don't know that he cares to be meddlesome in terms of I think you should do this more or this look, or I think he's trusting the offense to him. I think the going about making sure he's comfortable how to call plays, how to put together a game plan, how to recognize what defenses are doing against you. I just think there's a little bit more oversight for him. And again, some of that's that in addition to having three straight first-year coordinators, they've gotten younger. I mean, it's one of those where I think Canales was 41. I think Cohen was 39. Josh Grizzard's only 34. So, I mean, he's a young guy. And they're immensely confident in him. He's a smart guy. You got a Yale grad who's learned under some of the best offensive minds in the league, but it's still the first time he's called his own NFL offense. So that's always going to be a hesitation and uncertainty, if you will. If you remember Canales, his first year wasn't necessarily a great offense that clicked in September and October. It kind of came around as the year went on. Cohen was probably a little bit better about from the get-go, had it. But you don't know. It's one of those where there are so few uncertainties on this Bucs team because so much is back that having a new play caller on offense, even if it's somebody who came up from within the system this past year, that counts as one of their more like uncertainties and question marks. And how will that take?
Yeah.
And I do think it helps if Bowles isn't. I mean, Bowles has always given a certain autonomy to his offensive coordinators, kind of like Bruce Arians did to him when he was the defensive coordinator. But I do think within that, you want to make sure you also have the ability to step in and say, hey, you're doing this. It might make sense to do this. Get this guy involved. They let the assistants be really involved in terms of you're in charge of the third down package. You're in charge of red zone package. And they all collaborated to where it wasn't just Cohen coming out of a room and handing out papers and going, here's what we're doing this week. So I think that collaboration will still be there too.
And I love this idea of, in terms of being a first-time play caller, what a better way to get some reps than going up against Todd Bowles in practice. Right. And they'll do these free call things. And I'm sure they're doing this, away from the game as well in sessions. Like, okay, here's what I'm thinking as a defensive coordinator, Grizz. Now, what are you, it's a chess game, right? So they're probably going to be playing lots of chess in the offseason. Like, what are you going to do in this situation? This is what your defense coordinator is going to be thinking. So what's going to be your move? And I think that's where Todd's going to spend a lot of his time, is that back and forth. So it's not so much telling him what to do. It's just like putting him in game time situations in a kind of a simulator and saying, this is what I'd be thinking. What are you thinking?
Right. So, and I think Bowles is, to his credit, one of the more complicated guys you go up against.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think if you're
maybe too complicated,
I think Bowles will surprise his own people in practice.
Yes.
Say, we're throwing this out. And even in practice, they haven't seen that look. And the idea is, if we can surprise you on a Thursday, you're going to be less surprised on Sunday if somebody throws it out there. And I do think that helps. And I think it's helped if you went back and talked to Canales and Cohen. I think part of why they were better prepared and were less surprised on Sundays is that they go every day against a scheme that is so multiple and seeks to confuse and confound the opposing quarterback and the opposing coordinator more than most teams, I think.
Yeah. And unfortunately, and I think we've gotten this message, it confounds and confuses the defense as well. It's a little too complicated. I think we've heard a lot of that recently, and I think Todd has heard a lot of it. And I think Todd's probably like, we've got better players now. We've got a better roster, and maybe it behooves me to let them play instead of me tricking the offense, because there's simplicity. And I think that's one of the problems, that the defensive backs have not been aggressive enough. They're doing too much thinking and not enough playing, not enough reacting. And I think you're going to, especially with these two guys that they drafted, you can see on their college tape, they are aggressive and they jump routes and they play a very decisive game. And I think they want to feed into that a little bit more. Did you get a sense of that from the coaching yesterday, or what the coaches were talking about? Because that's what it looks like to me that they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, I don't think they spoke that much about, I think the aggressiveness is universal. That's always going to be there as an intent. Yeah. I do think when you have injuries, especially on the back end, I think they're less likely to throw wrinkles and throw complexity at backups and lesser players. So it's kind of like I think when you lose your most reliable corner and your most reliable safety, I just think instead of it being a grad level course, I think it's more of a pre-rack, first year. It's defense with a much simpler. I think the problem is when you dumb it down for your defense, you dumb it down for your opponent.
Right.
So I think he's at his best when he has the full arsenal at him and he knows that he can operate with confidence in all 11 guys. And maybe you lose a single guy and you bring a guy up and his next man up, nothing changes. But when you're down 3, if you got a slower linebacker than you want to cover the middle, now all of a sudden the vulnerabilities take up a bigger part of the field. And I think it's sometimes you overcompensate by being less aggressive, and that's not who Todd really wants to be.
Greg Auman joining us here from Fox Sports, covers the NFC South, been covering the Bucs since 2013. Servassier Dennis was a name that was mentioned a lot yesterday, and I think we've all talked about him, but there's no question this defense was very good early in the season, especially against the Lions when he was playing. How excited are they to get him back?
Definitely. And it's one of those where I think the relative inaction at linebacker, the fact that they didn't draft an inside backer, the fact that the only signing they had was Anthony Walker on a fairly modest contract, basically offsetting the loss of KJ Britt almost. I think that speaks well to their confidence in Dennis being a guy that can step in. He has to be healthy, and that's been the absolute that's the big if, years 1 and 2. But I think in getting that shoulder right, I think they feel like that covers one major concern. And I think they feel much, and he's a better complement to Levante David is what I would say, in that I think Levante doesn't feel like he has to do as much. There's a speed that's there, both in coverage and in attacking the quarterback. It was really exciting to see what he did. Again, you talk about Detroit and closing out a win against Detroit, was centrally involved there. And the first month of the season, you saw that initial it's like a 70-30 split to start out the year, and Britt's getting most of the work. And that started to slide to where, again, I think Britt was probably in there, in run packages and short yardage packages, and Dennis was going to be the bigger part of the job share, and they lost that. And that really set it back. I don't think they found an answer. Britt's not there. You think about throwing in Deion Jones, throwing in J.J. Russell. J.J. Russell still isn't on a team anywhere right now.
Yeah.
So
that tells you a lot.
Tell you something. And again, it's one of those where I think he's filled in admirably when necessary, but I don't think he's somebody they have out there by design. So again, they love Silvestre Dennis. They feel really good about him, not only as a smart player, just as an explosive player that can be a difference maker, getting into the backfield and doing a lot of different things. But first and foremost, he has to stay healthy.
Well, Great shows up early, and we had the rookie mini camp last week. You were there. I was there. We got to look at some of these kids. Who caught your eye out there?
Yeah, I mean, Jacob Parrish is probably the one that jumped out the most, just because these mini camps don't have a whole lot of things where you can see the running backs. It's hard to appreciate what they do at all. There's not a lot of one-on-one line action. So DBs and receivers are the two that spot the most. I think they said yesterday that Jacob Parrish had the only interceptions in the entire minicamp. So that stands out. Nice leap and grab on one of them. He's one where I think people initially wrote him off as a nickel because he's smaller. He's like 5'10", and they tend to like 6'2", 6'3" guys on the outside. And Bowles, to his credit, you can tell when Bowles will stand up in someone's defense more actively that he really likes a guy. Somebody asked if Tez Johnson was the fastest guy in camp. He's like, no. And then you have that pause. And you're like, who was the fastest guy? And he's like, Parrish. And he kind of said it matter of factly, you guys probably don't realize this. He was the fastest. And you're like, oh, wow. Okay. That's interesting to think about. And just in terms of kind of makeup speed, if you will, being able to cover a lot of ground, like in that split second between when the ball's released and it gets to the receiver, how many steps can you make up to get there and make a pick? And that's kind of what he showed a little bit.
Playing speed. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, right now, to talk about him as an outside corner, that's not a best scenario type thing for the Bucs, because if you have him on an outside corner, it's like you either have two rookies on the outside corners, and it mean you have like Izzy or somebody in at nickel, which is fine. I think they'd rather have at least one of McCullum and Dean outside, a rookie at the other spot, and a rookie at nickel, and then you have Ty Key at safety with Antoine. That's probably what feels like the best five. I think I'm going to mention you guys before, but it reminds me a little bit of Philadelphia last year, in that Philadelphia drafted two corners really early last year.
Yeah,
and
huge
I think
difference makers.
One jumped in right away. Cooper DeJean wasn't a defensive player the first month of the season. He was a kick returner, getting like 5 snaps a game on defense. And then once you got to like mid-October, started throwing him in there and really made him a game changer on defense. And obviously by the time you get to the playoffs and the Super Bowl, he's one of the bigger playmakers on the field. So it doesn't take right away, but I think they really like these two. You hear people, national guys like Ben Solak, who said he thinks that Jacob Parrish is one of the better value picks in the draft, period.
Yeah.
So no, it's intriguing. Obviously, I think we knew that corner was a position they wanted to address in the draft. Bowles wasn't even really hiding that. So you have McCullum, who's coming into what should be another huge contract. You have Dean, who's getting paid well, but is past the guaranteed portion of his contract, where those guys are kind of on notice. I mean, the odds of them having both of them on this team in 26 aren't that great. Yeah. So
they both got to play hard. Yeah. Going to be interesting. Greg Auman, at Greg Auman on Twitter, the X Machine. That's where you can find him. Great work. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate your time as always.
Thanks, sir.
Have a good one.
All right.